Hi, I'm Steacy Hubble. You're listening to the 1002nd album podcast, and I'm here to tell you why you should listen to Northern Attitude by Noah Kahan featuring Hozier.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stephen, and you're listening to the 1002nd album podcast. This season, we'll be talking about must-hear songs as I continue to ask people that are important to me all about the music that's important to them. Enjoy! Please welcome Steacy Hubble.
Hello, thank you.
Greetings. And the song of choice today is Northern Attitude by Noah Kahan and Hozier. And my
Yes.
first my first question would be, what was your Noah Kahan and Hozier introduction?
Well, Noah Kahan is a fairly new artist, so obviously my introduction to him is fairly new as well. As you know, once you've asked me this, I was like, oh, definitely doing Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. That's my favorite song. And Stella, who's opinionated, says, no, Mommy, you have to choose something that you're listening to now. That's a good song. So this is a song that I've been listening to a lot, but it's actually the original version is the song that got me sort of into Noah Kahan. So Spotify, I have a playlist that's kind of like folk songs, and it has like Paper Kites and Wild Rivers and Lord Huron and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I'll like go play a song and then it'll bring up suggestions. And I think that's pretty much how I came across Noah Kahan. And he's sort of having a big moment right now, doing a lot of collaborations with like Casey Musgraves, Zach Bryan, who's also having a big moment right now. On the other side with Hozier, I think we all know Hozier from Take Me to Church, and his voice is amazing. So actually I saw on like TikTok or something, they were doing a collaboration together, and then it was hinted that they were going to do like release it. And once they released it, I was like, yes, like now this is my new favorite version of this song because Hozier's voice is amazing on it. And obviously Noah Kahan's fantastic too. So we have tickets to go see him in April, I think, because he's had like 2 sold out shows in Toronto, and it was kind of like the lottery where you have to put in your name and then see if you get a chance to get the tickets thanks to Taylor Swift. So it was hard to get tickets, but we got tickets. So we're looking forward to that. Yeah. So it's a recent, I would say within the last 2 years, getting into Noah Kahan.
But those are exciting ones when you can really immerse in something new. When it's the old will always have a special place, but when a new artist you can get that excited about a new artist is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. It's funny. I'm pleased Stella was adamant that this is the song that ought to be done because, of course, I could talk about "Wish You Were Here" all day, every day.
Right? So good.
but this is perfect for me because, like you said, how you sort of discovered it on a folk playlist.
Yeah.
And for me, it's almost like this project is like one of those playlists where sometimes it'll be songs that I know, sometimes it'll be artists that I know, but this is a great one for me because Noah Kahan's brand new to me.
Fantastic.
And I must admit, my only Hozier experience so far has been the Take Me to Church and really strong vocal performance.
Yeah.
And I've also seen students wearing Hozier t-shirts, and the font is not dissimilar to the font Weezer used in their
Oh, really?
Everything Will Be All Right in the End era. So when I'd see the shirt and it would be like a Z in the middle and an ER at the end, it's like Weezer. I'm like, oh, Hozier, okay. But as I've since learned, that's good too.
Yeah, it's good.
But yes, specifically with the tune Northern Attitude, what is it that appeals to you about this song in particular?
When I first heard it, well, and looking at like the lyrics, it kind of feels like something that I can relate to. It's very relatable in my interpretation, anyways, with this idea of like being in a small community and returning to the community that I grew up in. So I think it's mostly that I relate to it. So it kind of feels to me like I'm going to a grocery store and I'm like, okay, who am I going to run into? Am I going to run into students? And am I going to run into like it's people I went to high school with? And this idea of like running into people and kind of like the small talk in a sense. So when Noah Kahan, he released this album and then he released like an updated version of this album, and then he's been doing the collaborations as well. But this one is the first song on the album. And it kind of sets up because he talks about in a lot of his songs talking about being from like a small community in like Vermont or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of can relate to it that way. And I think that's why I kind of like it. It just sort of reminds me of where I am, and not necessarily like where I am in my life. And because it talks about like losing your friends and losing your wife and stuff like that, but this idea of like settling into a life and being comfortable. And yeah, that's sort of where I am.
Yeah.
So that's why I relate to it so much, I think, and why I enjoy it so much.
For sure, for sure. And it's funny, like in our line of work too, as teachers, it's inevitable we'll run into to somebody in a small community as well that
Yeah.
taught someone who was, related to someone. And so I can totally picture that small community feel for sure. The was there any parts of the music that you really enjoyed in addition to the lyrics?
So with Hozier's version, after he does his verse and then comes into the chorus, I get chills every time because he does this like sort of holler sort of piece. And it reminds me kind of like how I felt about Dave Matthews back in like my university days. And that like you're like, ooh, this song would be so good live. Like just yeah. I would love to see the two of them perform it, but that part of that song always gives me goosebumps. And I'd like turn it up loud and it just, I don't know, gets me excited and happy, and it just feels good for some reason. I don't know.
I like it. And the and it's neat how there is that sort of different vibe throughout the song where it starts very sort of the fast picking, and the introduction just sort of has this one sort of feel to it, but then as soon as the whole band kicks in, I got a real sense of the U2 song Where the Streets Have No Name, where it was just like this real grand sound that I can imagine when you see them in is it April, I think they're coming
yeah.
So I'd imagine that's going to be something else to see in person.
I can just sort of like feel like the lights coming up or something, and yeah.
And that's a great point too about that idea of you said settling into a life as well. And the other song that this sort of reminded me of was, again, very different themes, I guess. But do you remember Fairy Tale of New York, the Pogues and Kirsty MacColl?
No.
It's this wonderful Christmas tune. But there's the line in it where she says, "I built my dreams around you." And it's this sort of acceptance of the life situation, not really, maybe it didn't meet the original expectations, but that sort of this is where we are and this is how it is. And that when the lad sang if I'm not how you hoped, I thought that was an interesting line to sort of be like, here we are in this situation and maybe it's not what you expected, but here we are all the same.
For sure. Yeah. And I like this idea, like I said, like I'm not lost. I'm obviously in a comfortable place, but this idea of like running into people and hearing people who have like gone through maybe different things, who have, lost people or are not happy with where they are and stuff like that. So kind of reminds me to sort of be thankful for what I have as well.
And a daily dose of gratitude is never a bad thing either. And just those like relatable scenarios. I think it's in Hozier's verse where it's like bought some things, searched online, just like this sort of like relatively mundane things that were happening, but just that's the life they find themselves in.
Like it's a fairly simple song for sure, but like I said, I can listen to it over and over and over, and I enjoy it every time. And when that Hozier part kicks in, I just turn it up, and then if I'm driving to work or something, and I just enjoy it. It's good.
Nice. So you obviously approve of the song, and Stella approves of the song as well. What is it about it you think that would really qualify it as the must hear then, the one that people really need to hear this year?
It's just one that I've sort of stuck with the last couple of years. He has so many great songs out there that this is just one that I sort of, for whatever reason, come back to. And then once again, Hozier was brought into this version, I just really enjoy it. And Stella always talks about me listening to old people music, or some people say I listen to, elevator music because I'm kind of more into the folky area. But I mean, the song just had such a good vibe to it that I think if you listen to it for the first time, you will enjoy it, and you will want to turn it up and just sit back and listen.
Yeah, I like it, and I've been very guilty of listening to old people music as well,
Right?
or Muzak, I believe they call it for the elevator soundtrack. The and other reasons why I think even a curmudgeon like myself could appreciate it too is that it kind of reminds me of older sounds, but without being at all derivative. Like it sort of takes me back to some other sort of sounds and times, like I mentioned the Pogues and U2, and but it never felt like it was just sort of chasing a cyclical fashion trend or anything or trying
Yeah.
to copy them. It was just it had that perfect balance of being reminiscent of something but still fresh, and which I really appreciate. And it's the other thing I was becoming a bit of an old man yelling at cloud with the the fish shaking whenever artists did collaborations, because I guess I used to be of the mindset that like if I'm listening to this artist, I want to listen to this artist and not these sort of like special guest stars or that sort of thing. But I've really started to change my tune lately, and it's thanks to people like Noah and Hozier. I love listening to Nora Jones is playing along, where it's just like she teams up with people she likes, Boy
Yeah.
Genius. And speaking of our kids inspiring our music listening, I took Holly to a concert in Toronto with it was Madeline May, Addison Grace, and I believe the third was named Bree. And it was so neat because they each did their own individual sets, but then also it was this great Venn diagram of like Addison and Madeline would play together, and then Addison and Bree would play together. And they sort of did all these great collaborations, which I'm learning can be fun. And instead of being like a gimmicky version of the song, actually, in this case, like you said, there was an original without Hozier,
Yeah.
and then with him, it's just gone to the next
Yeah.
level as well.
Well, and I think last time we talked about Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah.
And again, collaboration, right?
Mhm.
What more can you ask for if you have two great artists coming together and playing a song that you already like anyways, right? It just makes
Yeah.
it that much better.
Yeah, that's that's good. And I like that it comes full circle back to
There
the
we go.
to the Wilburys as well. So that's perfect. Well, a huge thank you for coming today, Steacy, and until the next collaboration that we discuss.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.
This has been the 1000-Second Album Podcast. Thanks for sharing some of your time, energy, and attention with us today. Take care.